can play at any level and make big shots.
The NCAA talks about putting people in the seats. We've done that. We've done that for 4 years, and we've only been to a place in which our fans could drive once. Just have to rethink as a committee as what's important, because what they tell us is important is attendance. And our fans who've been the #1 attendant fans in the country for 4 years don't get a chance to drive and support our teams in a way that, in the numbers that they could have.
All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network here on a Tuesday night. Let the madness begin in wonderful Dayton, Ohio, with the first 4 being played starting tonight over the next couple of nights, and then we'll get to the main draw of the NCAA tournament, the women's tournament, beginning later on in the week as well. You heard from Dawn Staley there. Not happy.
She is never happy lately, is she?
Well, you give her things not to be happy about, and she'll just tell you that she's not happy, but not happy about the fact that it's not because of Connecticut. I don't think they fear anybody. They'll take on anybody, anytime, any place. But I think the fact that they've got to, assuming they get past the first 2 games, travel up to Albany, New York, in Connecticut's backyard, and look at a Elite 8 matchup with UConn to get to the Final Four. And again, she feels like it's not fair that for another year, South Carolina's got to travel. It was 1 year they went to Greensboro, but outside of that, let's see, they've been to South Dakota, they've been to Washington, they've been to California, and now they'll go to New York. Not exactly showing great respect for one of the nation's premier women's basketball teams over the last 5 or 6 years.
Remember, the one time they went to Seattle, they were the #1 seed, but then in the second round, they had to travel to Stanford and play Stanford, the #2 seed, on Stanford's home floor.
And the problem with playing in New York is that not only do you have to play up there, but you have to possibly play UConn in their backyard for a chance to go to the Final Four. And there is the theory that you probably, if you're going to want to win a national championship, you're going to have to go through UConn anyway. They were tad fortunate last year that they didn't have to go through UConn, but obviously there's unavoidable right now.
Yeah. So she was not happy. We'll let you hear the unhappy side of Dawn Staley a little bit later on. Earl Grant, the College of Charleston coach, will be joining us after the first break of the evening. We'll talk with Earl about the showdown with Auburn in round 1 for them out in San Diego. So, you know, what a job he has done. That program was in tatters after they went through the last coaching change. They had other issues beyond basketball that were affecting that program, all kinds of complaints about the coach and things of that nature, lawsuits, and even surrounding all that, remember, there was if I remember correctly now, I think there was a big drug bust that involved some College of Charleston, a player or maybe players. It was just a mess there for a while, and Earl's come in there and cleaned it up and got him on the right course.
And, of course, a guy who left him, Kenyon Berry, and went to Florida as a grad student and got Florida to the Elite 8. He could have still been at the College of Charleston. Maybe they got in last year.
Improvements every year. In his first 4, including last year, they got to the NIT. Coach of the year last year was Earl Grant, and obviously winning the championship this year and getting what I think is a very great opportunity against a team that is not as strong as they were even when South Carolina played them the first time.
Yeah. Speaking of injuries, of course, you're referring to Auburn being without a key player, seeing where Virginia's going to be without one of its key players, the 6th man of the year in the ACC, is going to be missing the tournament. DeAndre Hunter, broken left wrist. Virginia announcing today the freshman power forward is going to miss the tournament. 6'7" prospect, pro prospect, ACC, 6th man of the year, was hurt during the tournament. The school did not disclose when or how the injury occurred. Virginia beat North Carolina in the championship game Saturday night, and Hunter played 18 minutes off the bench and scored 10 points with a bad wrist, apparently. He'll undergo surgery next week, a 3-month recovery. So that is a bit of, one thing about Virginia. Now they play, of course, the great defense, the pack line defense, and they really make you work for every shot. But they too are a bit offensively challenged, and they like to play low-scoring games, which means unless you're just having an absolutely horrible offensive game and they're taking you totally out of your game like they have done from time to time this year. But you'll have a chance to be in there late with them if you're able to make some of your offense work and get some shots. You can be in the ball game with them because the pace is going to be pretty slow.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, but I think that they are more than just one player. They very much play kind of a plug-and-play system. And then that's the one thing, like, if they lose a guy like Jack Salt, that's a guy who I worry about, or a guy like Ty Jerome, or even somebody even more on the
Wilkins.
periphery of that, Wilkins, somebody like that. Those are the guys I'd worry about. You know, Hunter obviously is a loss. It questions their depth, but they've got players, they've got guys that they can plug into his place.
We will hear from Brad Brownell tonight as the Tigers prepare to jet to San Diego in the morning. We'll get his thoughts about New Mexico State. Speaking of New Mexico State, we're going to have the voice of New Mexico State, Jack Nixon, with us at the bottom of the hour.
He's been working at this job longer than you have working at yours. It's pretty interesting.
Is that possible?
37 years for him at the New Mexico State radio
He's
network.
been the voice of New Mexico State for 37
7
years.
years,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have been here for
34.
going on 34, but I've been on radio in the state going back to 1979. So we're almost talking 40 years there. So I might have a couple of years on him. JT eBay, the newest member of the USC football team, I guess unofficially, unless he is, don't know if he has signed any papers or anything. He's going to join us a little bit after 7 o'clock, talk about his plans on helping that Gamecock defense on the back end and kind of helping shore things up there and just what he can bring to South Carolina's defense. Kerry Tharp, of course, Tuesday night NASCAR visit, and I guess we'll say more nice things about Kevin Harvick and that team. My goodness, they're just dominating things. So
it's making it awful boring in this opening part of the NASCAR
then
season.
I open up my laptop, and I had seen where the Packers signed Jimmy Graham for 3 years, and that made me feel very good. Now I see that they're releasing Jordy Nelson.
Yes.
And that makes me feel very sad.
You know where he's going
Damaged
now.
goods.
You know where he's going now.
I have no idea.
He's going to go to New England, I think, to replace Danny Amendola.
This just breaks my heart. This really breaks my heart. No, I am seriously upset about this. Why? Why are we doing this?
To sign Jimmy Graham.
Because the Packers, like any other NFL team, is cutthroat. Let's face it. Since his injury, he is not the same Jordy Nelson.
Well, I don't know about that. Now, last year, remember, he didn't have Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball to him most of the year. He came back year before last, coming off the knee injury, and he was Jordy Nelson. He was really good, but he is 32. Maybe he slowed down a little bit, but he is Aaron Rodgers' man. He is the guy. Now they think Devontae Adams is going to be that guy, I guess.
This Green Bay Packers talk is great for our South Carolina audience.
Oh, well, you don't understand that most NFL fans in our state are Packer fans.
That's incorrect.
Not even
close. I don't think I think you're totally wrong.
Not even
You've
close.
never said anything more incorrect.
I am pretty upset about that piece of information. It's very disturbing. 800-956-7266. I can't promise we can squeeze you in tonight. We got so much good stuff, but if you want to ring us up just for the fun of it, 800-956-7266. Email us talkback@sportstalksc.com. The two games tonight up in Dayton, Long Island and Radford, and St. Bonaventure and UCLA. John Wooden's like, what? We got to play in the play-in games to make the NCAA tournament?
Go Bonnies. Go Bonnies.
All right, we'll be right back.
Will Pelagic back here with you, South Carolina Radio Network. This is Sports Talk. It's our pleasure to be joined by the College of Charleston head coach Earl Grant, whose Cougars take on Auburn in the first round of the NCAA tournament Friday. Coach, my first question to you, how was the process between winning the conference tournament and now when you're getting ready to play this Auburn team?
Yeah, it was a combination of celebrating and rest. We won the championship game on Tuesday night. Obviously, we were down 17. We had to fight back to push the game to overtime, and then we ended up winning the game. And, we put so much into that, so much effort into that conference championship run that we needed some time off after the win. We were drained emotionally and physically. And then the celebration on Tuesday night, just the city and the fans and the students. I mean, so many people excited, and it really took a lot of us. So we took a couple of days off, and then Friday and Saturday we tried to get back going with our practices and stuff, and we just talked to each other about getting grounded, getting at least one foot on the ground and understanding that the season ain't over and we got a chance to continue to play. And this is what we wanted, so we had to get back refocused and started practicing Friday, Saturday, and the selection show was Sunday night.
I know you told reporters on Sunday that you were happy with the draw. After further examining it, what made you happy about where you were placed?
Well, I don't know about just saying I'm happy about the draw. I was just happy that we got we playing against a team that there's some similarities in terms of matchup. They like to play four guards and a smaller big guy. We've been playing four guards and a big, so it's going to be a really hard game. I mean, they won the SEC regular season championship. They really can score the ball. They got good guards. They're fast. They try to pressure you. They thrive off of your turnovers, the offensive rebound. So, I mean, it's going to be a challenge. So, I just think it's a good matchup in terms of, size and how we play. But it's a very tough draw.
We got to see Auburn here up close and personal in Columbia when they took on South Carolina for the first time, and that was the game where they lost Anthony McLemore. How much different does this team look without him?
Well, they still look good. They're still talented, but I mean, it does hurt them a little bit to lose a guy that was having such a good year. I think McLemore was having a really, really good year. He had been blocking some shots. He was rebounding the ball well. Started to make some threes. He was a tough matchup because he could drive it from the perimeter. He could post you some, and then he could make a three. And they were playing him as a five-man. He was very agile. He could jump out and be aggressive in ball screens. So they do lose something by not having him, but they still got a lot of firepower with the guards being able to score the way they can, and those undersized bigs just rebounding the ball.
We're talking to Earl Grant, head coach of College of Charleston. His Cougars taking on Auburn on Friday in the NCAA tournament. I know we saw Auburn in the Charleston Classic in your building earlier this year. I don't know if you had any inkling that you might be able to see them later on in the year, but as a coach in your position in a league such as yours where, you're probably going to face somebody from a power conference, how much of an onus does that put on you on trying to kind of keep a periphery on what's going on in the nation with some of these teams that you could possibly face down the road in an NCAA tournament setting?
Yeah, I think in the early parts of the week with your preparation, the thing you try to do is just get better at what you do. Like, just shore up some of our beliefs, some of our non-negotiables, some of our principles on the defensive end is, hey, here's what got us to this point. We won 26 games, we won the regular season champ, won the conference championship. So here's what got us here. Let's make sure we do these things well. So you spend a lot of time shoring up, defensively, offensively, what it is you're trying to do, how you're trying to play. And then, later in the week, you start focusing on, okay, here's what we have to do against this team to be successful. So we've done a little bit with Auburn in terms of, giving the guys planting a seed about how they're going to play and how we need to defend them. But for the most part, it's just been about us. And then, starting tomorrow, we'll start getting more into Auburn. Thursday, get more into Auburn. And hopefully there'll be some themes with Auburn. I think there's some themes with Auburn and New Mexico State a little bit that's similar. And then you got Clemson on the other side. Obviously, I can go them a little bit.
Obviously. Yeah, well, I'll ask you about them in a moment, but I do want to at least stop down on what you said about what you do well. What do you believe that you guys do well that fits that tournament setting and fits that NCAA tournament?
Well, defend, rebound, and take care of the ball. Obviously, if you do those two things, regardless of who you're playing, if you defend at a high level, which contesting shots, getting back in transition D, putting out fires the first 6 seconds of the possession, put the fires out, get your wall built, make them go against your set D, and you make them take a tough shot and you rebound. That's a lot. I mean, it's a lot to do, but that's what we've done. That's kind of what we've been built on. And then the second thing is rebound the first miss. Now, those are going to be challenging because those are things that Auburn do well. They rebound offensively and they run. So that's a challenge for us. They're going to try to stress us out in those two areas. And then take care of the ball. I think we're fourth nationally in ball care. We don't turn it over. So if we can do those things, at least we give ourselves a chance.
Talking to Earl Grant, the head coach of College of Charleston. Of course, the pedigree you mentioned from Clemson, and obviously that's something that when you saw them, I'm sure in the same pot, you had to be kind of getting a little jittery. What did it mean to see them kind of across the way there in the other matchup that is with you in San Diego?
Well, I mean, it's weird. I hadn't thought about them a lot. Certainly, me and Brad talk a good bit, and you kind of wanted to avoid each other. We don't talk scheduling. When I first got the job here, I talked to him, hey, man, maybe it'd be good if you schedule us. And then he just kept telling me, hey, it's never happening, so let's just stop talking about it. I don't think that's an attractive game for Clemson and South Carolina to play us, a team that had so much experience this year. Because if I was them, I probably wouldn't play us either. But now it's like, okay, we can't avoid it. Okay, if we have success in the first round, then there's a chance we're going to play. So, I mean, I hadn't thought a ton about it because you spend so much time worrying about the other Tigers, the Auburn Tigers.
Right.
Just trying to prepare for that. That's going to be hard enough. But hadn't really thought about the Clemson game, a ton. Just thought about, hey, we got to be successful in the first round. We only promised one game, and we're capable of advancing, but we promised one, so that's really the approach we took.
It's only happened once with two South Carolina in-state schools playing each other in the NCAA tournament back. I think it was 74. South Carolina played Furman, and Furman actually beat them. What would it mean to have you two guys match up in that round of 32 if it happened?
I mean, it would be unbelievable. It would be, it wouldn't make, to be honest with you, a lot of this region doesn't make sense to me because you got Brad Burnell in San Diego. We're in San Diego. Greg Marshall's in San Diego. Chris Jans at New Mexico State, who labored and worked with me the first 3 years. Me and him both were assistants together at Wichita State in the first 3 years of building that program. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's like, how in the heck did we all get out here? The same region. Like, all of my family in basketball is out there. It's kind of weird.
Pretty odd, and I know that it's something that you've been working towards to get your program to this level. What kind of sense of gratification do you have knowing that it only took 4 years to get back to the NCAA tournament with this squad?
Well, I would have been very disappointed this year if we didn't make it to the tournament. We had couple older guys who really wanted to get there. Obviously, our whole team and staff wanted to get there, but there are a couple older guys. So my whole goal was, hey, I got to do all I can to help these guys, get to the big dance. And so they deserve it. And I knew how hard it would be. So we would have been very disappointed if we didn't make it. I really hadn't thought about how gratifying it is to make it. It's kind of weird. I mean, when we found out we made it, we took a couple of days off to recover, and then we just got back to work. So we've been so caught up into the work and the process of trying to prepare ourselves and focusing on the preparation. Maybe in April, at the Final Four, when I'm sitting around with buddies and they're telling us, hey, great year, maybe I'll think about it then, but I hadn't had a chance to think about it a lot.
Maybe you'll be peppered for a game in San Antonio. Never know.
Yeah, you never know. You never want to count that out. I mean, that's a goal of mine to take a team to the Final Four. Not just go for the convention, so you never know. Maybe we'll get a chance this year.
Coach, we appreciate the time. Good luck in San Diego. Safe travels and best wishes.
Thank you, buddy.
The head coach of College of Charleston, Earl Grant. We'll be back on Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
And we're going to talk some Aggies as well as Tigers and Cougars and USC women later on as we look ahead to Clemson and New Mexico State in the NCAA basketball tournament way out in San Diego on Friday nights. That would be, I imagine, 9:37 tip. The
57.
9:57 tip be the last game of the day of the tournament of the first round to go off. So a long way to wait for that, and a lot of water over the bridge or under the bridge or over the dam between now and when they tip it off. Let's find out more about New Mexico State as we welcome in the voice of the Aggies, Jack Nixon, to Sports Talk. Jack, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on your show.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. What's the feeling out there about going to San Diego and taking on Clemson, an ACC team? What's the excitement level for you guys as you prepare for this trip to the NCAA?
Well, Aggie fans are on cloud nine. It's been quite a year for New Mexico State this year. Things have just really all fallen into place for a lot of sports. This is, of course, the first year for Chris Jans here at NMSU. He replaced Paul Weir. Paul Weir went to University of New Mexico, the big rival, which that was quite a controversial thing a year ago. Anyway, Coach Jans has come in, really instilled winning, or continued a winning atmosphere. A lot more hard-nosed team than what Aggie fans have seen lately. A team that concentrates more on defense, and a team that I don't know. It's just is playing very good basketball right now. People are very excited. This is a trip that a lot of people will drive to from here. It's about a 10-hour drive, but to see your team in the NCAA tournament is quite an opportunity. And I think NMSU is eager to play Clemson. They've faced down, played the different big teams before this year, and have had good success. I think they're eager for the challenge.
Yeah, well, they got a taste of the ACC when they beat Miami early in the year. But the thing we're deducing about the team is a really good defensive team, especially on the perimeter. Really forces teams to take tough shots outside, and then offensively, the Aggies like to go inside a lot, maybe try and score inside the arc and in the paint area. Is that pretty good description of what you guys are all about?
Yeah, I'd say offensively, the Aggies are better doing that. They've been shooting the ball well lately in the WAC tournament, but that can be fool's gold. You know, that can look good on one night, and then the next night it's just not there. Jamario Jones is an awfully good inside player. He's the team's leading rebounder, one of the leading rebounders in the nation. Zach Lofton, another very clever offensive player, is not a bad three-point shooter, but can score in a lot of ways. He makes a lot of tough shots. And then lately, those two are, I would say, the most consistent scorers. And then lately, the Aggies point guard, A.J. Harris, who transferred, he was at Ohio State his freshman year, and then came out to NMSU, and, last year and is eligible this year, has been playing well of late as far as scoring. So those three have been kind of the main ones, or the most consistent ones of late. AJ is a guy that likes to drive. He's 5'9", but he's fearless. He likes to go inside. So he does that quite a bit. And then Jamario scores quite frequently on offensive rebounds.
You know, it's funny, Jack. We were hearing earlier from head coach of the Clemson Tigers, Brad Brownell, and he was marveling at the fact that a guy like Jones is the leading rebounder on the team, and he only stands at 6'5". What is it about his makeup that has him able to be such a high rebounder at that level?
Well, he's a good jumper, and he just kind of understands how to do it. He always tries to get the ball when it's like it's the top, so he's out jumping people. He just works hard at it. He had a good year last year, and he had I don't remember how many double-doubles as a junior, but more than a few. But he just really has stepped it up, and I don't know that anyone really saw this kind of a performance. I believe he's had 5 games when he's had 25 or 20 rebounds or more, and that's incredible. The last time the Aggies had a guy do that was a fellow named Sam Lacey, who played in the NBA for several years. Your older fans might remember Sam Lacey's name. But he was on the Aggies Final Four team. But Jamario just works hard at it, and he knows how to do it. He's clever, and he just has honed that part of his game.
Yeah, I'm one of those older fans can remember Charlie Chris too.
Yeah,
for that
same
matter.
team. Same team.
Well, when Coach Jans, the way his team plays, when he comes over to you maybe for an interview and he's got that stat sheet, what are the stats he's most looking at? And he says, now that's what I want.
He wants to see us out rebounding people. He wants to see, a good, efficient, number of assists to baskets. That's what I would call efficient. A high number of assists leading to baskets. And I think he wants to see us controlling, outscoring teams in the paint. That's what he really wants. He wants to see, if the other team shooting a low field goal percentage. I think most coaches, really want that. But he's very concerned about that. But the big thing, I think, is the rebounding and also minimizing our turnovers. When we do that, the Aggies have been pretty good. One thing that frankly hasn't been good, and this is no secret if you look at the sheet, Aggies have been a very bad free throw shooting team, and it really has only hurt them maybe in one game. But that's something that they did very well in the WAC tournament, and they had a much, I would say, an easy time, but a much easier time because that part of their game was at a higher level than it normally was.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that question about the free throw shooting. 63% as a team, yet you shoot 46% overall from the floor, which is excellent. Any explanation by the coaches, the drop-off, the big difference between shooting it so well from the floor but struggling at the line?
It's the kind of a thing that they don't really want to draw attention to it. They encourage them. They have them, practice and things like that. I don't know. It's not something that they talk much about. They just try to quietly encourage it and get them to concentrate more. That's for whatever reason they really did a good job with that in the championship game. But that's been the one thing that has been consistently below par all year. The team has played hard. They've done a pretty good job of defending every night out. They do a lot of converting turnovers to points. They've done that fairly well. But the free throw shooting just has been right around where it is right now, 63%.
How would you estimate, Jack, the battle-tested nature of this team? I see St. Mary's on the schedule. I see Southern Cal, Miami, Davidson, and a couple of those were wins. Yeah,
I think, St. Mary's was, the second game, first real game. The Aggies played a lower division school the first game, then we went out to St. Mary's. And, they were good, and they were better than the Aggies had, and I think the Aggies have proved, but I'm not sure it'd be an interesting game now. But I think the Aggies kind of learned how to win on the road spin we had. We went away from home for an entire month. We had 8 road games and won 7 out of those 8. One, I guess, neutral site. Played Illinois and Chicago, so that's not really, it wasn't in Champaign-Urbana, but we beat them in front of all their fans. And then went over and won 2 out of 3 in Hawaii. I think we beat UTEP in there somewhere, 1 at UNM. Those are our rivals, Texas El Paso and the University of New Mexico. And then this is not in chronological order, but then beat UC Irvine on the way back from Hawaii. And Irvine, that's not, they're not an ACC level school, but they're pretty good in that league. And the Aggies have just, played in Hawaii, so they come back to LA, beat them there. So I think, and then the Aggies won 5 out of 7 on the road in the conference, although the conference is, not the strongest in the league. Still, winning away from home is hard, I think, in any league. And so I guess the long answer to your question is the Aggies have learned how to win away from home. They've kind of learned how to win where the fans are kind of on the other side. There's lots of SC fans over in Hawaii and, of course, in Chicago. So I think that they learned to play against the odds. And that's kind of Chris Jans, the head coach. He's a tough guy, tough guy, a tough mentality sort of guy. And I think that they've adopted that, and they kind of, they like to go in other places and win. And I'm sure they see this as that kind of a situation.
Well, I think so. I mean, we see it all the time. A 12 beating a 5, it always worries the higher seeded team because they know it happens regularly in NCAA tournament play. So we thank you for the visit tonight, and enjoy San Diego. You have a great time out there. Yeah. Thank you.
I've been out there a few times before, and it's a nice town. I'd like to come and visit Clemson. I understand it's very nice back there, and thank you very much for having me on your show.
Our pleasure. Thank you, Jack. Jack Nixon, the voice of New Mexico State. Like you said, he's been out a long time, huh?
He sounds like it.
Yeah. He's got a good voice, and he sounds like he knows his stuff.
Great pipes.
Yeah. All right. So heard a little bit more there about the Aggies of New Mexico State. We'll find out what Brad Brownell thinks about him in a moment. All right, thanks again to Jack Nixon for joining us here on Sports Talk and giving us his view on New Mexico State. Mexico State's got the little short ride, 10 hours, compared to what Clemson will be facing. Well, they'll be going by jet. I imagine New Mexico State will fly from New Mexico to San Diego. Sounds like Jack's going to drive.
I like to see that drive through the desert.
Well, how much desert is there between? Is it all desert once you hit California going to San Diego?
Yes.
It's all desert.
Yes.
Huh? Yeah.
Nothing really in between that area.
Well, I guess Clemson is flying out when?
They're flying out tomorrow.
Charleston went out this afternoon.
This afternoon, evening, yes.
Yeah,
they're in the air as we speak.
Right. So Clemson's going out tomorrow. Today, Brad Brownell got with the media to preview the meeting with New Mexico State Friday night out in San Diego. Obviously, he's excited. Team is ready to go, and he's excited to get the Tigers back to the tournament.
Certainly have gotten to watch a lot of film of them here the last 2 days. Very impressed with their ability to guard. Very athletic team that really comes after you in transition. They rebound and fire out of it. Just kids play extremely hard. Very well set up, organized, run some good things. Old John Crest stuff in the set play package. Change some defenses every once in a while. But I think the thing that sticks out the most is that they're used to winning. Their guys are used to winning. They won last year, won 28 this year. You can see when you watch them play that they're a very confident group. And they've knocked off a bunch of high majors already, so they have reason to believe they're good, and they're certainly capable of making a run just like we are.
How's
Go ahead.
a guy who's 6'5" for them average 13 rebounds?
Unbelievable, just nose for the ball. Some you don't coach. It's just some certain guys have it. They just have a high motor where they're extremely active and athletic and just go for the ball all the time and just have a knack of knowing where it's kind of going to go, and then athletically are gifted enough to go make plays. And then obviously the unique thing about him is he's then good enough as a basketball player to bring the ball up the floor and initiate their break. And so it eliminates need the outlet, and it puts more pressure on your defense.
There's a certain coach on this campus who likes to use the everybody against us card at times. People are saying New Mexico State could be one of the shockers. Can you use that at all?
Yeah, some. I think media overblows all that. It's great that you tell your players that, but after one hit in football or one trip down the floor in basketball, the players don't remember any of those things anymore. None of that matters. It's about playing and executing your plan. Can it help you in preparation for the week? Maybe. But I think our guys are aware that very few people have believed in our team for months now. It's not just one game or 1 week. We talked about it a little bit way back when. But for us, it's more about us believing in ourselves. And it's us believing in what we do and who we are. We've had to do that twice. Had to do it at the beginning of the season, then we had to do it after Dante Grantham's injury. And that's one of the reasons why I'm proud of our team. And I told them that after Selection Sunday, that we can be as successful as we want to be. We're good enough. And but we have to play really good basketball, because all the teams we're going to play right now are here for a reason. They're good. They play well. They're competitive. And we're the same. So, let's have good practice, and then let's get ready to go do it.
So do we believe enough in the Tigers to think that they can make a deep run into this tournament?
They play good defense. They rebound. They must hit the three, though. They've got to hit, I'd say, 10 to 11 threes in the ball game.
I got a feeling, not having seen New Mexico State, probably not all this season, sounds to me like they really come out and challenge you on the perimeter. They really come out and guard the three.
They do.
Which means that should open up your entry passes to your post. So
Or
maybe this
driving
is a
lanes.
game. Well, that too. Maybe this is a game where you feed Thomas a lot down in the post and see what he can do.
They're 8th best in the country at 3-point percentage as far as defending it. They're averaging only 31% allowed, whereas Clemson on offense is about 36% shooting it. So, and they've obviously had some better numbers than that over the course of this season. They're not necessarily as good at 2-point field goal percentage, and New Mexico State obviously also very good at defending inside the 2. So it's going to be something where it's a contrast in styles, but I was very encouraged by what I saw against Virginia with Elijah Thomas, and there could be some more of that second half game plan that Brad Brownell goes to, as long as Elijah Thomas doesn't get in foul trouble.
That's always a key with him.
Yes.
And keeping him engaged, and I think he's done a better job this year. One thing that Brad said in the preseason, he and Thomas, I think, had a sit down because they weren't on the same page a lot in Thomas's first year after he became eligible. I think there was a little bit of a conflict going on there, and I think they got that settled out. And now you see what Thomas can do when he's totally focused and engaged. And a big man has got to feel wanted, for lack of a better word.
He needs to feel love.
He wants the ball. He wants to be included in the offense, and they've done a better job of getting him the basketball, though this is still a guard-dominated, three-point oriented team at this point.
Well, that's the key to this whole mentality for him, is once the ball goes inside, if he does not have a lot of touches, he's going in there. I don't care if a Mack truck is in his way. I'm not going to get the ball that often, so I'm going right to the hole.
His most important touch is not the one he's getting; it's his next one. He has to know that next one's coming.
But that's one of the things I think Clemson doesn't do enough of. Is the repost, kick it in, kick it back out, fake the three, repost, throw it back in. They don't do it a lot of times. When that ball comes back out, it's going up from 3-point territory. It's not coming back to the big man.
And Brownell doesn't have a problem with that. And when you've got 3-point shooters, when they're on their game, like Clemson does, they can shoot themselves into any game, but they can also shoot themselves out of some games as well. All right, coming up after the top of the hour break, JT eBay, newest USC football recruits, will be joining us here on the program. Let me give you the recruiting report for tonight. We'll begin with a little basketball. USC remaining involved with point guard T.J. Moss of Findlay Prep in Henderson, Nevada. This according to his dad. He said Chuck Martin, USC assistant, has been in daily contact with T.J. Moss. Frank Martin is supposed to be talking to the dad here pretty soon. They did not get out to see him during the season. They plan to see him, he said, up in New York when the team plays in the national championship tournament the end of this month. Now, the Memphis situation could complicate things because T.J. Moss played for Penny Hardaway at Memphis East. They won 2 state championships. Of course, the word is that Tubby Smith is going to be out at Memphis and Penny Hardaway is going to replace him. So that could throw a new wrinkle into this deal. For his senior night, Moss had 28 points, 13 assists, and 7 rebounds on the season. According to Max Preps, he's averaging about 7 points and 6 assists per game. But his dad said he's really focusing on being a point guard, a true point guard. Minnesota, Arizona State are 2 others who are actively involved. Linebacker, this is football now, linebacker Brighton Constantine of Baton Rouge, a recent visitor to Clemson for a spring practice, and the Tigers are in his top 8, which he just released. The others are Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Auburn, Florida, TCU, and Houston. No leader right now, but Clemson very much involved. He had 104 tackles, 23 tackles for loss, and 6 sacks last season. 2018 quarterback Colin Snead of Palmetto Prep and Hillcrest High committed to New Mexico, of all people. 2020 offensive lineman Jack Seidel of Imperial, Missouri, was at Clemson yesterday. The Tigers have not yet offered. Clemson linebacker target Owen Popo of Loganville, Georgia, will announce on May 5th. He's had Georgia and Auburn as his top 2. And in baseball, 2018 right-hander Taj Bradley of Stone Mountain, Georgia, has committed to South Carolina. Top of the hour break. We'll be back.